Good afternoon, Louisiana. Welcome to Bayou Bets for Monday, August the 15th. I'm Zach Ewing, along with Jim Derry and Spencer the Guru Urquhart here on bet.nola.com. We're having a fine Monday. We're getting closer to football season. 2 weeks away from game week for college football, 3 weeks away for the NFL. So we're getting there. I just cashed a plus 333 bet on English Premier League, so I'm in a good mood. That was Crystal Palace to win or draw. They finished 1-1. Good for me. How are you guys doing?
Oh, pretty good. Just been digesting receiving yardage props for the season. And when I was looking at rushing, I didn't find a whole lot of value. But with receiving, there's some values I'm liking.
It's just another beautiful Monday and another division of team previews to work on. They are just all running into one another, aren't they?
You are on the NFC North this week, correct?
That's correct. I talked with Adam about how we say we've had a couple divisions in a row, I think, where they might be two of the most interesting divisions in football in the NFC West and the AFC North. And the NFC North as a division isn't maybe one of the more interesting divisions in football, but I think there are a couple teams that could be some of the most interesting teams to look at in the NFL this year. So it's been fun.
I agree with that, and I think I know where you're headed, but we'll talk about that a little later in the show. Official Young NOLA, how are you today? First thing I want to talk about is that we are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, and you can get a $1,500 risk-free bet as a new user at the Caesars Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up already, get that going at NOLA.com/Caesars. Season's coming up. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. We're going to be in New Orleans a couple of different times in advance of LSU, Florida State on September the 4th. Get to see the new Caesars Sportsbook at Harris Casino in New Orleans. That'll be fun. And today we're talking AP Top 25 came out too for the preseason. So college football is coming down the pipe fast. That's in 20 days. So how you feel about Chris Olave? Well, let's talk some Saints. Let's talk some Saints and some preseason. Saints opened their preseason Saturday. They lost to the Houston Texans 17-13. The fifth string defense gave up the game-winning touchdown with 25 seconds left. I don't know, Jim. I don't see a whole lot to be concerned about for a Saints fan. I mean, this is where you say the preseason results just don't matter because the guys who will actually be on the roster played just fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we talk about preseason all the time, what it means and what it doesn't mean. And, we talk about how we like the under because, I mean, frankly, we didn't expect the first teams of either side to play very much. They didn't. Davis Mills played quite a bit for the Texans, and they still couldn't do anything against a number one defense and even really into the number two defense. I thought Andy Dalton was great. I thought the first team offense was great. I thought the offensive line looked really good. There were plenty of guys that didn't even suit up for the Saints on Saturday night. So, let's see where they go forward. One thing I do want to mention, I think it's interesting, social media is just lighting up Ian Book, and by all means, he was terrible. I mean, there's no other way to put that he was terrible this weekend. But I had at least 4 people talk to me last night in poker night about how they should just cut him now. I mean, there isn't enough sample size to figure out what Ian Book really is just yet. And not only that, if the Saints need to use Ian Book, it's going to be a really bad season anyway.
It's gone sideways.
Exactly. So let's not. I mean, no one's counting on Ian Book to do anything. And one more last thing on preseason. Let's close the door. I had friends saying, just cut Ian Book. You got Taysom Hill. He can be your third quarterback. Repeat after me. Taysom Hill is no longer a quarterback. He's not going to. He'll only play quarterback in his Swiss Army knife role. He's not going to be practicing with quarterbacks. He's not going to be in quarterback meetings. No longer a quarterback. He's not going to be the number 3 quarterback. It will either be Ian Book on the practice squad or KJ Costello on the practice squad, and that's the end of that.
Don't close the book. Oh, sorry, I won't go there.
Good one.
Spencer, official Young NOLA asked us about Chris Olave. Only one target, which that did surprise me a little bit, considering Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas were not playing. You thought maybe they would get Olave more than that. He only had one target. He caught it for 4 yards. Any concern for you there, combined with the fact that he's not risen up the depth chart, at least not officially yet?
No, I'm not concerned about it. It's just one preseason game. I'm thinking he'll be more involved in these next two. And I mean, he's a first round pick and has shown pretty well in camp to where I feel like he'll be one of the top three when it's all said and done. You know, he might not. I was telling you for fantasy early, like for people counting on him to like, be great in week one, I'd say temper those expectations. But for season long fantasy, I still like him because I feel like after a few weeks, he'll get comfortable and become the top deep threat on the team. And yeah, I'm not worried about him at all. I think he'll be just fine for the regular season.
I think I might fade Chris Olave in fantasy just because I don't know that there's going to be a ton of targets for him in this offense, but we'll see. We'll see. And one of the reasons for that is, as official tells us, Michael Thomas looking like his old self. It'll be curious to see what the Saints do in their second preseason game, which is Friday night. Will we see Jameis Winston if he's feeling better with his foot? Will we see Thomas and Landry? Will we see some of the defensive starters? I would think if you're going to play them in the preseason, this is probably the spot to do it. Then they still have a couple of weeks after this before having to get ready for the regular season shit.
Yeah, I agree. I think you may see Jameis play a series or something. I kind of doubt it. But that being said, though, I think you will see some of the other guys. I think a lot of guys who didn't suit up this past week will suit up this week. You know, you got to, now that there are only 3 preseason games, you have to figure out, is this really how they would play the third preseason game in a 4-game preseason schedule, or is this how they would play the second? I'm not 100% sure. With the fact that there's a week off between the last preseason game and the first regular season game leads me to believe that this will probably be more like the regular number 2 game. So I think you're more likely to see them in the third preseason game. I kind of don't think we'll see Winston. I think you'll see a lot of guys dress out and maybe play one series. I would like to see more Andy Dalton and let him take a quarter or a quarter and a half and see if he can do what he did in that one drive and continue to do that throughout maybe a half or something like that, or close to a half, because he was excellent and the first string offense was excellent.
And I think you're right. Now that I think about it, there's still a full week and a half in between the Chargers game, which is the third preseason game, and a home game, by the way. So if that matters at all, you show the starters to the home fans. And I think the odds makers are with us on that one, because 3 points is not an insignificant spread in a preseason game.
Right.
The teams that were, I think, 3 points or more favorites in the first week were 5-1 straight up, 4-2 against the spread. The other thing here is that, and Spencer, you wrote about this, the totals were 13-3 to the over in preseason week 1. And in fact, if you had done a 10-point teaser on any 4 preseason games, pick any of them, you won it. If you picked the 4 overs on a 10-point teaser, none of them came within 10 points or more than 10 points of being under. So it's like,
can you do that?
It's crazy. But here's the thing. You look at the total in this game is 39.5. The highest total in week 1, the highest one was the last game of yesterday. The Raiders and Vikings was 39. So
we had
it
on daily best bets.
That was the highest one, was 39. The average total in week 2 is 40.6. So the average total is higher than the highest total was in week 1. To me, that's an overreaction. You might actually see some value on unders in this week 2.
Yeah, I think actually the highest total was the Cardinals Bengals, which was I think was a little higher than 40. But yeah, there weren't as many like ridiculous shootouts as the week 2 adjustment indicates, which is why for this week it would probably make a lot of sense to go with the unders, take more unders, because it's just the books or anyone that took overs, got cleaned out because of 13 of 16 hitting. That was pretty insane. But yeah, this week it'll probably be more toward the under, since there's just, I feel like the defenses will adjust. There's going to be some adjustments made this coming week.
Or you could just not play them.
We got to talk about them. Shoot.
It's preseason.
I know. It's just I know. Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I had an epiphany. I was like, yeah, I'll tell you, for anyone that's like looking to bet on the regular games, a lot of times your unit might be like 50 or 100. For preseason, those make your unit only like 5 or 10.
Yeah,
that way you don't lose much, even if you can still play them and not be risking a whole lot.
I got to say, guys, I disagree with you. I used to feel the same way. And obviously, I think you have to make sure that you have an edge. Don't just go betting every game. But there's no look. The bets pay the same in the preseason. You're not. You don't have to. If you think you have an edge, you have an edge.
Zach, I'll say this. I try to tell this to my son who loves to play just about everything. But I think there are, unlike the regular season, I think in preseason there's way more value edges on over-unders than there are on teams. Because even though you can follow reports of what first team is going to, how long this first team is going to play, or this quarterback's not going to play, or whatever, I really think betting preseason lines are like flipping a coin. I mean, if you want to bet on the heads or tails, then go ahead. But I do agree that over-unders, that if you look enough through who's going to play, what the numbers are, and I agree with your assessment of overreaction to week 2, and we probably didn't give enough credence to how low those totals were going into last week. We were right about the Saints under, but we missed on a couple others. So I do think that you can find value there, but I just think that betting any line, unless you're betting the Baltimore money line, there's just, it's like flipping a coin.
Which Baltimore plays Sunday Night Football this week, and they opened at 4.5, and that thing's already moved up to 6.
This might be the week where I take just a flyer on them, their streak being bet, because it makes sense that you don't talk about it in week 1. You forget about we didn't. We talked about it a little bit, but there is so much talk this week about Baltimore's winning streak in the preseason. I just have this hunch it's going to get snapped this week. So I might contradict myself and put $10, like Spencer said, just lower my unit to $10 and put $10 on the money line against them.
At some point, I know it's preseason, but at some point the teams playing the Ravens have to get kind of wise.
Exactly.
No, screw this.
Yeah,
we're going to play our second stringers a couple extra series.
Right.
Make sure we beat, whatever it takes. We're, just as a pride thing. I don't know. Maybe that's not. By the way, Spencer, the Cardinals Bengals total was only 31. So yeah, that 39 was the highest in week 1.
You mean like the projected line, like the line set by the books? Oh, my bad. I mean, I thought.
No. I don't mean what it ended
the final
up as,
totals.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you. My bad.
The totals were the highest total in week 1 was 39. As the games closed, as they kicked off.
Books. Yeah. Okay.
And the average total this week is 40.6. So I mean, it's a huge reaction. And to me, it's an overreaction. If you could pick your spots, I think the unders will bounce back in a big way. I mean, you got preseason games with totals of 42. Like that's too high.
I was thinking about betting every under this week, to where I feel like at worst I'd break even. Like, just bet every under. I don't see where, I don't think more than 8 are going to go over. So I
do think unders will have a winning record. I do. I mean,
can you do that? Can you do that? Can you do all those teasers with in the preseason?
I don't think they'll turn away your money.
Let's do a 16 team, 10 team, 16 team, 10-point teaser on the unders.
We are finishing up our AFC North previews. We actually finished up on Friday with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I don't need to go back and get that slide, but let's talk about this division one more time briefly, Jim. It's it really is a very interesting division, I think.
It is. To me, there's really not a whole lot of value in this division as far as betting division numbers. If you want, I think the Bengals might be the best value at plus 180. Does that mean I think they're going to win the division? I mean, I do think they're going to win the division, although I don't love it. In plus 180, I don't know if it's enough to make me bet it. So we talked about how the division is one of the most interesting, because top to bottom, I think they're going to be fairly even. I think even the Steelers could be in there if they figure out their quarterback situation. If Kenny Pickett kind of does enough to get in there and start, which I'm not sure that they're going to let him right off the bat. But I mean, I think it's Ravens and Bengals, but still close. We don't know what's going to happen with Cleveland and Deshaun Watson right now. Just 6 games, but I think we all agree that that's going to go up.
Uncle Big Nick, send us a screenshot, man. Send us a screenshot of that parlay. I want to see what it pays. By the way, I did get the Ravens a couple of months ago at plus 220 to win.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm happy with that. I wouldn't bet them at plus 155. I think the value's gone there. but I do think they're probably the most likely to win that division. But let's talk those Steelers just for 1 second, because this is the team we did not get to last week. I don't know. I mean, I think the temptation here is to look at that win total and say, this is Mike Tomlin. He won 9 games with Big Bum at quarterback last year. Like, the guys they have this year can't be any worse.
Well,
He's going to win 8 games.
You hate big men, don't you?
I never liked him.
I mean, you were all over him last year.
Objectively speaking, he was terrible last year. I mean, you can't. There's no way you can argue with that. He was terrible.
He's better than Justin Fields.
I actually don't think that's probably true if you look at PFF grades and things like that.
I don't.
You got a better team around him.
Look, the Steelers are in a weird spot. I think that, like I said, I said they're not a team I'm going to touch in any form or fashion. We said in the preview on Friday. But if I had to pick one, as much as it pains me and I hate betting against Mike Tomlin, I'd have to take the under. I just don't think – I think they're going to have a season full of growing pains. I mean, 7.5 is a lot of wins to win in this division. I know that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, but this isn't the same Steelers. I know their defense is supposed to be really good. They weren't very good last year, and they had T.J. Watt for most of the year last year. Unless they start Kenny Pickett, who needs to start and just take his lumps. I love Najee Harris. I love Deontay. There's just so many holes in this team, though, that I can't think that they're going to be any good. And there are certainly no values anywhere else, unless you want to throw $10 on them to win the AFC North and say that we're like completely wrong. Because really, if they go over that win total, then we're really wrong about this team. And Mike Tomlin is doing what Mike Tomlin does, and that defense is holding teams to 17 points a game. So maybe there's a tinge value there, but I'm just not going to touch this team at all.
Well, let me put it. I just think there is a possibility that every team in this division ends up like between 8-9 and 10-7, because I don't think any team in this division is like lock solid.
Right.
This is going to be a great team. I also don't think there's any terrible teams in this division. So if you want to bet the Steelers at 10-1 to win the North, what you're banking on is that they win some crazy tiebreaker at 9-8, and it's just one of those years in this division. Right. Spencer, I know you're buying Najee Harris. What about the Steelers as a whole?
Yeah, I think the Steelers as a whole offer some value here. To me, they're the best. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they're definitely the best value here out of the 4. Because I'm not touching Cleveland at all with the Deshaun Watson situation. I just feel like there's zero value there. Or with Pittsburgh, 10-1, there's definitely value there to me because their defense is still elite. I mean, you still got T.J. Watt.
They were 24th in the league last year, by the way.
I mean, they had a lot of injuries last year on that side. If they can stay healthy this year, they've made upgrades, and their O-line. The thing that scares me about them the most probably their offensive line, because their offensive line is still very much a work in progress. So as much as I love Najee Harris, I still think he'll do very well for fantasy with the volume, but from a real life perspective, if their offensive line doesn't improve a lot, it's going to be tough for them to score a lot of points no matter who's at quarterback. But I am banking on their defense bouncing back this year. They've got the talent. It's T.J. Watt, to me, the best defensive player in the NFL. So if their defense bounces back, I think they'll win 8 or 9 games and make their over a decent value. And then if you're feeling like that, then you might as well throw a little bit on them to win the division. So I mean, it is Mike Tomlin. They've got it done in the past. It's a new era, but I'm feeling like they'll be able to at least stay competitive.
Biggest problem with their defense, Zach. Biggest problem with their defense is they're going to be on the field a whole lot.
Yeah. And here's an interesting thing, and I think Adam brought this up too. Yeah, I can't remember if it was on your video, Jim, or in his own podcast, but he said bet Steelers unders, especially early in the season, because what we may see is the Steelers run the ball a whole lot, and the market may take a couple weeks to adjust to that. And so if they're running a whole lot, and by the way, Benny Snell's been missing from practice. That's Najee Harris's backup. They've been using Jalen Warren a lot. And so there's a late round fantasy sleeper for you. But I mean, if they're running the ball that much, those totals could definitely go under. Let's move on and talk some NFC North. That's where we're going this week. Starting tomorrow, I guess you do it alphabetically. So Chicago Bears will be the first ones up on Tuesday, 1 per day in the morning. Jim and Adam Chernoff from covers.com give us a win total prediction. And in the afternoon, Spencer has fantasy. This is what the NFC North odds look like, fellas. The Packers odds on favorites here. I think that number's too hefty. I think the Vikings have a legitimate shot at this, but that's just me.
Well, I don't want to give any spoiler alerts too much yet, but I will say this. We talk about how there are interesting teams in this NFC North. Well, we don't start with one. There's nothing interesting about the Bears at all. I mean, I don't care if I give a spoiler alert on the Bears. I just don't see how they're.
Boy, I know I'm clicking on that tomorrow.
Boy, I know I'm selling this one, but maybe we'll have fun with tearing them apart. Who knows? They're just not good. Their number one receiver. They love him here in New Orleans, Darnell Mooney from Tulane, but is he really a number one receiver? So the Bears have a lot of things to figure out in a new coach and Matt Eberflus. And here's a reason to watch the video tomorrow, because Adam Chernoff has some very interesting things to say about the Bears and their transition into what they're going to become with a new coach in Matt Eberflus, and how it could affect Justin Fields. And I like David Montgomery as good as the next fantasy owner, but is he going to be able to run through what potentially could be the worst offensive line in football? So, but to me, I have a major surprise in this division. I have a just general surprise, and then I have a surprise on who might not be good. We'll see. I don't want to get too far into it, but I agree with you that the Green Bay Packers are way overpriced at -170.
All right, Spencer. So we're doing Chicago Bears on Tuesday. Then it'll be Detroit Lions on Wednesday. We kind of build into this division, and then you get the two favorites, Green Bay on Thursday and Minnesota on Friday. I find Minnesota to be the most intriguing team here. I think there's big bounce back opportunity for that franchise this year. In fact, that was one of the bets I made a couple of months ago. I think I got a better price than that. I'll have to go and see what it was, but they're at +250. Your take on the NFC North, Guru?
Yeah, I think it is an interesting division. It's one that could be a little more wide open than the odds are indicating. I'm not quite as down on Green Bay as Jim, I don't think. I still think Green Bay will be right up there, which the number there, though, is not too good. It's just Minnesota, probably the best value here. And then I kind of like Detroit to do better. It's just win the division. They'd have to take a significant step, and I just don't trust Jared Goff or their defense. So I definitely think they're better than the Bears, but it's just, to me, their only value here is Minnesota.
Interestingly enough, Zach, you look at those NFC North odds. The Lions are at +900. The Bears are at +1,300. Yet the Bears win total is 6.5, and the Lions are 6. So someone needs to explain that to me.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I assume that depends on how much money they've taken on either side in the markets,
I guess.
But that is really odd. So that's coming up this week, the NFC North, and we'll continue our NFL previews. The Saints play Friday night, so we'll preview that a little bit more on Thursday's Bayou Bets show. And as Spencer mentioned, tomorrow on the fantasy roundup at 2:00, we're going to kind of pivot a little bit from regular fantasy football talk and talk about player props. And the Guru has done his Guru research and has a whole bunch of plays for you. He mentioned that, he teased that. So tune in at 2:00 tomorrow for that one, or it's on demand at bet.nola.com anytime after that, probably half an hour after the show ends. So around 3:30 or so tomorrow. And Zach, that one will be a lot of fun.
I have one. Since I'm not going to be on the show, I'd like to ask the Guru. I am going to give a spoiler alert, because Adam Chernoff says that Justin Jefferson could be the best value at Player of the Year. I think he's +1,700. And since we're talking about the NFC North, what do you think of +1,700 for Justin Jefferson, the LSU guy, to be the Player of the Year? Offensive Player of the Year.
Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I could see it, because I like him a lot as far as like to lead the league in receiving yards. I feel like he's a nice value for that. And if he does that, he could end up the Offensive Player of the Year. I believe Cooper Kupp was this past season's Offensive Player of the Year. So I can get down with that. I might place a little something on that after the show.
Like, Offensive Player of the Year has become sort of the non-quarterback MVP award, right? Like it's they give the MVP to a quarterback, and then the Derrick Henry
Right.
got it a couple years ago, I think, and Cooper Kupp, as y'all mentioned, and it's kind of become if you're not the MVP because only quarterbacks can win the MVP.
So
I thought
stupid.
Cooper Kupp should have won the MVP last year.
100%.
But if we're not going to give the MVP to a non-quarterback, we'll give them the offense. It's like a consolation prize. It's like the Cy Young, where they don't name pitchers MVP. So now we have another award for them. Anyway, that's what we've got coming up on the NFL. I'm also going to
damn sports writers.
That's right. I'm also going to have a look at NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year odds coming up. A lot of the guys who are picked at the top of the draft are favorites there. Kayvon Thibodeau, Travon Walker, those sorts of guys. Derek Stingley is up there. He's 10-1 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He did not play for the Texans on Saturday night. But speaking of college football and LSU, the preseason AP Top 25 came out today. We talked about the coaches poll a couple of weeks ago. Very similar here, but what we did is we took the rankings and showed you the odds that correlate with those rankings. And there's a couple of outliers. I mean, the bookmakers are not nearly as high on Notre Dame as the pollsters are. They are much higher on USC at the bottom of your screen at 22-1 than the pollsters are. But in reality, I think the stat that I was looking at, it's been since 2004 maybe that a team not ranked in the preseason top 7 won the national title. So that's 18 straight years. Somebody in the top 7 wins the national title, guys.
No surprise there. I mean, college football has become it's not an even playing field. They don't want it to be an even playing field. It takes away from money. So there's a reason why the teams at the top are well known before the season starts. And I'll go beyond the top 7. I mean, usually it's one of the top 3, right? I mean, it's very rarely not one of the top 3. So is this another one of those years? I mean, if you look at the odds tell you that it's more likely than not that it will be one of those top 3 teams. And really, to me, the only other value outside of the top 3 is Texas A&M or possibly Utah because of the conference that they play in. I just don't think there's really a lot of value anywhere else. And we talked about Texas A&M, and to me, that's the best value on the board. And they're in the top 7, so they could continue that trend. But really, realistically, I think Alabama, Ohio State, or Georgia has a firm grip on the likely national champion.
Yeah, and I don't mean for every time we talk about college football for it to become a repeat. But I know at some point, college football is the most predictable sport there is, like you said, Jim. I mean, you just know who is going to be the in the running basically every year. So, Spencer, any new thoughts from you? LSU today, its quarterback battle looks like it's down to 2. The big news there, Miles Brennan has reportedly walked away from football. He's retiring. Didn't win the job. It'll be either Jaden Daniels, the Arizona State transfer, or it will be Garrett Nussmeier. And we talked about this last week. We all kind of like the idea of giving a young guy the job. But listen, if Daniels is the guy, if he's clearly the better guy and gives you a chance to win 8 or 9 this year, you take it.
Yeah, I'm thinking they'll do, Daniel's pretty sure he's going to start, see how he does in the first part of the season. And if he does well, keeps doing well, then yeah, cool, keep him. But to me, if he struggles, then you got to go with Nussmeier at that point. I feel like he's young and showed potential to where, if Daniels isn't getting it done, then it's you got to see what you got with Nuss and see if maybe he could be your guy. If not, well, you got Walker Howard for next year.
All aboard the Nuss bus, Jim.
Oh man, I don't even know where to go with that. Sure. But I think I agree with what we were all talking. I said Miles Brennan last week, and it's not any great revelation or anything. Miles Brennan wasn't going to win this job. You get a new coach coming in who understands what he's stepping into. I don't think that anyone expects LSU to be in real competition to win the SEC West or. The biggest goal for LSU is if they could find a way to play at a New Year's Day Bowl. That would be a huge, huge accomplishment for this team. And so you're going to go with a quarterback that can play more than a year. And, Brian Kelly didn't bring over Jaden Daniels for nothing, and he didn't come here for nothing. So I think that he obviously has the leg up, and it would be a surprise if he's not the quarterback in game number 1.
Yeah, the only issue too with saying, oh well, if Daniel struggles, hand the reins over to Nuss. This schedule is brutal in the back half.
It's brutal.
Their last 6 games at Florida, home against Ole Miss, who's ranked in the top 25, home against Alabama, number 1, at Arkansas, who's ranked in the top 20. Then they get UAB. Okay, that's the one. Although even UAB is probably their best sort of cupcake game. They're better than New Mexico and certainly better than Southern. And then end the season at number 6 Texas A&M. So like, I guess
beat
UAB,
Ole Miss. Just beat Ole Miss.
Other than that, that's a tough road, man. Ole Miss.
That's all I
ask.
Just beat Ole Miss.
But you're asking Nussmeier to step into that. That is a tough assignment. So that's college football. That's starting in 12 days. We have college football. Saturday the 27th, Nebraska and Northwestern are playing in Ireland. I think Vandy plays out in Hawaii. You got football all day. It's not a ton of games.
Are they going to make them drink pints before the game?
Guinness, baby.
I mean, they should all have to drink 2 pints before the game.
I went to an Irish pub on St. Paddy's Day in Munich this year. It was my brother's bachelor party. And the guy who owned the pub was Irish. And I ordered the small Guinness because we had already been drinking. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon, and I was already like 3 drinks deep, like German beers. And I got to pace myself here. I got to get through the rest of the night. And that guy came over and asked me 4 times how my lady beer was. This is like how my lady's beer was.
Your lady's beer.
Because I got the smaller size. Like I didn't get the full pint. Yeah, and so this is how Irish pubs are, man. And so Nebraska and Northwestern.
We're gonna have him on the show. Do you have that guy's number?
It was fantastic, man. It was fantastic. Nebraska and Northwestern fans are gonna have fun on that weekend. I assume they're probably already going over pretty soon. A couple of other things before we go here on Bayou Bets on bet.NOLA.com, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Zach, Jim, and Spencer here with you. World Series odds have changed, honestly, for this late in the season, fairly dramatically. The Dodgers are the favorites again. They had not only won 12 in a row, but Spencer, you were on top of this. They covered the run line 12 times in a row before they lost yesterday in Kansas City.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what the Dodgers are doing, and they've just kept it up. They finally the streak ended, but I mean they're still. I mean they've established themselves as the clear-cut favorite, especially now that the Padres, the wins taken out of their sails at the Fernando Tatis news. So it's like as much as the Dodgers have gone up, the Padres have gone down, and not necessarily because of their play. I mean the Padres have played pretty well since the Soto deal. It's just, man, with the Tatis news, I mean, that was supposed to be their big reinforcement to really put them over the edge and have them like right there with the Dodgers. But now that that's no longer a possibility, it's opened it up more for the Mets and the Braves and maybe even the Cardinals, because all those teams are playing well right now. Braves went undefeated for the week. Cardinals leading the NL Central. Mets, if they haven't met it yet, they've kept it. They've kept playing really well. So the NL is pretty wide open. I know the Dodgers are the favorites, but I'm thinking somebody could take them down, because it seems like every year the Dodgers go into the postseason looking really strong and usually end up not living up to the expectations.
Jim, you wrote about the Tatis thing. I get it, but that line shifted $4 from 12-1 to 16-1 when Tatis was suspended. That's a lot for one player. That might be a little bit of an overreaction.
Well, I agree, but I think there was an overreaction in the grand scheme of things anyway when they got Soto. So maybe it balances out. I don't want any part of the Padres. I don't think they're good enough to win the World Series. I talked about how, I got the Dodgers in the preseason. The only reason why I did it is because Caesars had a promotion. If you make a $50 bet on a future, you get a $50 free bet. So I said, okay, let me go bet $50 on the Dodgers, who I thought was the favorite from the beginning. I still think they're the best team in baseball, and the Yankees are proving that they're not as good as everybody thought they were. They're kind of stinking up the joint. But the Dodgers, I think, as a whole, overall, are the best team in baseball. They're the most experienced in the playoffs as of, the last 5, 6, 7 years, and I think they're going to win it again. But there is value on a couple other teams.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I have a futures bet on the Yankees from the preseason at 10-1, which the Yankees are not playing real well right now. But look, they still got the pitching, and the Dodgers, by the way, could get even better. Dustin May is coming off the IL this week. He had like 10 Ks in 5 innings in his last rehab start, so he looks like he's going to hit the ground running. And there's a possibility they get Walker Buehler back in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
He's out for the regular season, but he could be back in the playoffs. And if you could throw Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, Dustin May, Tyler Anderson, who's had a fantastic year, Tony Gonsolin's had a good year. I mean, some of these guys are
Andrew.
Some of these guys, Julio
Urias. Man.
Some of these guys are just going to be bullpen guys, and you just go with the hot hand at that point. Imagine Walker Buehler coming out of the bullpen throwing a couple flames in the postseason, if that's
or even if they want to have a bullpen game with Buehler and Urias, and I mean Urias has experience out of the pen. That would be kind of interesting. So you really don't need a Buehler to throw 6 innings. You get him to go out there and throw 2 or 3 would be great to start if you needed a bullpen game. But I mean, this team's just they've got it all. There's nothing they don't have, and they have a great manager besides. It's just the Dodgers boring.
The only thing standing in their way, honestly, is the same thing that was standing in their way last year and every other year, and that's the randomness of the baseball postseason.
Yeah,
and you in a short series, you can not play well for a couple games like they didn't against Atlanta last year, and there you go. Atlanta took advantage of it, won the World Series. I will say, speaking of the Braves, they start a 4-game series at home tonight against the Mets. And this is a series where if they're going to win, I think they're 5.5 back. They're going to have to take 3 out of 4 here. They have one more series in New York later in the year, and then that's it. If they do not take 3 out of 4, I think that division belongs to the Mets. And if that happens, the Braves and Padres are most likely. I mean, the Cardinals and Phillies could still get in those spots too, but there's a pretty good chance the Braves and Padres are going to play in the wild card round, and one of them's got to go right away.
I want a rerun of the 1992 World Series. I know y'all are too.
Braves and Blue Jays. No, that's
you do remember it. Okay. Yeah. Braves, Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays won it. That would be good for my tickets as well. There's no Joe Carter around, but that's okay.
They got Vlad Jr. now.
Yeah, that's right. That would be perfect.
Vlad was playing in Canada at that time for the other Canadian team.
Yep. So the Montreal Les Expos.
So, yeah, I mean, that would be fun. I think there's a lot of fun matchups, to be quite honest. Like, you look at this slide.
That's why I just
an NL team and an AL team.
Yeah, that's why it's like, please. I know I have a ticket on the Dodgers, so I'm not going to be upset if they win. Great, but who wants Dodgers Astros besides Astros? I know there's a lot of Astros fans out there, but who wants Dodgers Astros, Dodgers Yankees? Boring. Give me some Braves Blue Jays. Give me here you go, Spencer. Give me Cardinals and I don't know Cardinals
Mariners.
And Orioles.
Mariners.
All right, Cardinals, Mariners. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Zach could be
clashing there.
We'll have to take a bet.NOLA.com business trip if that happens.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, let's see a couple of games.
I'd be rooting for Zach's team. Sorry, Spencer.
Oh yeah, no, I'd understand. I mean, I'd be a lot. All the underdogs would be rooting against me because I mean, shoot, we've got 11, and Mariners have yet to get one, so it'd be one of those ones. Even if we did lose, it wouldn't feel quite as bad as like losing to the Yankees. Like that'd be
or the Astros. I mean, look,
yeah,
I understand. There's a lot of Astros fans around here. I feel you. You're going to root for your team. I totally get it. Nobody else likes them. Nobody.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would almost rather the Yankees at this point.
And I just please, they're a very, very, very good team.
They're fantastic.
Yeah, if the Dodgers don't win it, they're rightfully the second favorite. But I'm not saying they're not a good team. And all the trash can begging stuff, look, they've proven they're a good team anyway. But I just don't. I just won't be here for it if they win.
That's all right. They'll find a way to lose. They've got Dusty Baker in the dugout.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, yeah. He's like a curse, man. He's like Chris Paul. He just can't win with him.
I will say that if they win, I'll be happy for Dusty Baker. I will not mind seeing that guy lift the trophy. Just the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, we all thought that about Andy Reid, and I mean, he broke the curse.
Sure. Last thing I want to get to, and I know we have a request for the Saints record on there. Maybe we'll get to that too. But the BMW Championship is the second leg of the PGA playoffs. They'll get it down to just 20 players after this, and so all the big names in there, except for Cam Smith. Cam Smith's not in it anymore. He withdrew. He had a live stuck.
He had a live problem.
Yeah.
He's got a live problem.
Jim, any early leans here? Patrick Cantlay seems to be really low priced. I know he won the playoffs last year, but you're telling me Cantlay's 1,200, and I can get a Justin Thomas at 14 or Xander Schauffele at 18.
You want to talk about overreaction? How about Will Zalatoris? He finally wins, needs to go to playoff. Both golfers stink in the
Thank you,
playoff.
Uncle Big. It's 30 players.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both golfers stink in the playoff, and Zalatoris is suddenly 14-1. I mean, come on. So that's a little overreaction. And so you want to talk about value? Yeah, I can't lay 12-1. He just hasn't been playing that well.
I wouldn't. I don't think that's value at all. Yeah. I would go further down the list. Scheffler at 14, Thomas at 14.
I like Scheffler. I like Thomas. I haven't got into my going through it and doing analysis and listening. I haven't listened to Andy Lack yet as well. But I think maybe Matt Fitzpatrick. Morikawa played really well this weekend. I'd be watching out for him as well. So maybe guys in the middle tier there. But I really like Jon Rahm. I think Jon Rahm showed that he has that little extra oomph to prove something, and he played well over the weekend. He did not play that well on day one or day two. He -3 on the first day, and just kind of rambled into the cut. But he played well over the weekend, and I think he's got a nice role. So if you're going to take anybody at the top, that's probably who I would take.
Look. Spencer, I know every time we've talked golf this year, you've mentioned Zalatoris' name. He's been one of your favorites, and he finally got one.
Yeah,
that playoff was the damnedest thing I ever saw in my life.
It was crazy.
That ball not going into the water, and both guys just spraying it off the tee. I mean, it was wild.
Doesn't go in the water, and then he still picks it up and goes and takes it to the drop.
You had to. Did you see where it was sitting?
Come on, man. No guts, no glory. Hit it from that little – who cares if you –
Plus, Straka had already hit it in the water, so it was the smart play. I mean,
who cares if you break your one iron or whatever to chip it out of there? I don't care. That's what we want to see.
Spencer, did you even watch Will Z get his win for you?
I did not, unfortunately. No. If I'd have known he was there, I would have, but it's just, with golf, man. I was watching NASCAR, man. Someone's got to keep up with the NASCAR.
Kevin Harvick wins again.
Yep, won again. Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I was thinking, I thought maybe last week was a tad bit of a fluke, but no, he's establishing himself as he's back. He had struggled a lot of the year, but yeah, he's back now, man.
Leave that on so I can actually read it. Let's see.
All right. I'm sorry, Spencer, go ahead. We're just putting Uncle Big Nick's nonsense up there, but go ahead.
Yeah, with Harvick. Yeah, I was saying it's one I wish I'd a few weeks back would have taken a ticket on him to be the Cup Series champion, because he could have gotten him at an amazing value. Or now that he's won 2 in a row, the value ship has sailed there. But yeah, it just goes to show that he's older. He's an older driver, but he's still got it.
Bakersfield, stand up. All right, we'll end the show with this. Had a request from Mr. Official Young Nola. Predict the Saints record. I don't know if we're ready to do official predictions yet. I will say I think we all like them to go over that 8. And you've seen that some books have it at 8.5. That juice keeps going down, -160.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be 8.5, I think, before the season starts.
Yeah.
Although they might want to leave. They might want to leave it at -160 and just have no one bet them anymore. I don't know what it
honestly, I wonder if that's not the strategy, because if you put the juice up so high, you just won't take any more bets. Yeah. Maybe they're happy with that. Yeah. I guess I'll say 10-7 at this point, official, but I'm ironically enough, that is not my official prediction. We'll do that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm thinking 10-7 is about where they'll end up, which is why I kind of like the alternate line. They have an alternate line, I think, of over 9, where you can get it +120 or something. So I remember, I think I put a little something on that last week, because I was like, I think they're going to go 10-7. Why not just go over 9? And then if they win 9, you push. If they hit the 10, well, then you win.
All right. Uncle Big Nick made the bet, guys. The under parlay, $100 to win $1.63 million. He sent me the bet slip. It's official.
When you win $17,000 in golf over the course of 2 weeks, you can make a $100 bet like that.
You can throw $100 away. Yeah, but listen, if that thing hits, Uncle Big Nick is the one funding the bet.NOLA.com World Series business trip. Let's just put that on the record right now. All right. Yeah.
Beer, hotel, hot dogs.
That's right, man.
And by the way, I'll have my win total prediction on the Saints on September 2nd. So make sure you join that.
I think we've done enough damage for today. We'll be back, Spencer and I, at 2:00 tomorrow afternoon for the Fantasy Roundup on these same channels. And then 4:00 Thursday, Bayou Bets is back, and we'll preview the Saints-Packers preseason game. Tune it into bet.nola.com all week. By the way, go back and listen to Jim with Jim Mora if you haven't done so yet. That was last Friday on Datitude. We'll have Datitude again this week, as well as the NFC North. So starting with the Bears tomorrow morning and building up to the Lions, the Packers, and Vikings, oh my, throughout the rest of the week. And yeah, we've done enough damage. We have done enough damage. So, guys, any final thoughts?
I have one. On a personal note, I lost a very close friend of mine this weekend. When you get to my age, it seems to become more of a common occurrence, especially in these COVID days. It doesn't have anything to do with COVID that I know of, but a very close friend stood in my wedding. So RIP to Billy Ragusa. We shared a lot of good times together. He was a big sports fan, although he did not like the Saints. He would root against the Saints just to root against the Saints because that's the kind of guy he was, kind of like Uncle Big Nick in a way. But we had a lot of great times together. He was a big golf nut. In fact, he was about to go on a vacation to Destin to play some golf there this past weekend, and it just didn't happen. So we say RIP to him, and but gone, not forgotten, and I will remember the great times that we had.
That's a tough one. Spencer, uplift us, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, just sorry to hear that, Jim. And I think it is Friday. I'm excited to see what the Saints can do. Seeing more of the starters, because I mean, let's just be real. This week we barely got to see anything. Where I'll be glad to see a little more real action as far as guys that are gonna see significant playing time. Hopefully they can do well, because they did well to start this past week in that first drive. So hopefully they can keep that momentum rolling.
One more final thought. We were just talking baseball and talking about Walker Buehler coming out of the bullpen in the postseason. 7 minutes ago, Walker Buehler to have season-ending elbow surgery.
Oh no!
So I guess he's not coming back in the postseason. Just wanted to clear the record on that one.
When do that mean?
Literally, as we were talking about it, yeah, he will be.
That could be a next year.
I mean,
if it's Tommy John, he's probably that's terrible.
Maybe back for the 2023 playoffs. Anyway, that is the news, and that's it for us. For Spencer the Guru, and for Jim Derry, I'm Zach Ewing. This has been Bayou Bets. Thanks for joining us.